The Atchafalaya Basin doesn't look dangerous from the air. Just endless water and cypress trees stretching across South Louisiana like a massive green sponge. Beautiful, even. Peaceful. But that's how the swamp gets you. Makes you think it's safe. Makes you forget that under that water, between those trees, in that thick, humid air, things live that don't want you there. Things that know the bayou better than you ever will. Things that hunt. My name is Corporal Jake Mitchell, 26 years old, United States Marine Corps Force Reconnaissance. I've done 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. I've survived IED ambushes, sniper attacks, and close-quarters combat in places where death was a daily certainty. None of that prepared me for what happened in the Atchafalaya Basin in August 2019, for what we encountered in that swamp, for the 8 Marines who went into the bayou with me and never came out. The mission briefing seemed simple enough: swamp warfare training. The Marine Corps was developing new protocols for operations in wetland environments, lessons learned from Vietnam, adapted for modern near-peer threats. 12 of us were selected for a 5-day training exercise in Louisiana, navigate the basin, establish patrol routes, conduct mock reconnaissance operations. Standard stuff. Our team was solid. Sergeant Marcus Hayes leading, 32 years old, 3 combat deployments, the kind of NCO who'd walked through worse and come out the other side. Corporal David Chen, our comms specialist. Lance, Corporals Rodriguez, Thompson, Williams, and Sanchez. PFCs Morrison, Jackson, Carter, Washington, and me. All Force Recon. All experienced. All confident we could handle whatever Louisiana swamp threw at us. We inserted via boat at 0600, August 15th. The humidity hit like a wall the moment we left the air-conditioned transport. 95 degrees. 100% humidity. The kind of heat that makes your uniform stick to your skin within seconds. The kind that makes you understand why people call Louisiana the armpit of America. Our guide was a local, old Cajun man named Claude Thibodeau, maybe 70. Skin like leather from decades in the sun, eyes that had seen things he probably wished he hadn't. "You boys sure about this?" he asked as we loaded gear into his airboat. "Atchafalaya ain't like other places. Got rules. You break 'em, she don't forgive." "We're Marines," Hayes said with the confidence of someone who'd never met a problem he couldn't shoot. "We've trained in worse." "Maybe," Claude said, not sounding convinced. "But you trained in places made by men. Swamp ain't made by men. Swamp got her own laws, her own residents." "Alligators," Thompson said. "Yeah, we were briefed. We'll be careful." "Ain't talking about gators." Claude fired up the airboat engine. "Talking about the Rougarou." Some of the guys laughed. Rodriguez made a joke about werewolves, but Claude didn't laugh. He just shook his head and guided the boat deeper into the basin. "Y'all laugh now," he said over the engine noise, "but the Rougarou, they real. Been in these swamps long as anyone remember, maybe longer. My papa saw one, his papa before him. Whole Cajun community know about 'em. 7 feet tall, walk on 2 legs, face like a wolf but eyes like a man. Hunt in packs. Take what they want." "If they're real," Chen asked, humoring him, "why haven't scientists found proof? Bodies? Evidence? 'Cause the Rougarou's smart, smarter than people. They know to hide, know to only hunt when moon's dark, know to take bodies where they won't be found. Swamp keep their secrets real good." We reached the drop-off point 2 hours later, deep in the basin. No roads, no buildings, just water, cypress trees, and Spanish moss hanging like gray curtains. Claude helped us unload our gear onto a small island, more of a raised mud bank than actual land. "I come back in 5 days," he said. "Pick you up right here. But listen, you hear howling at night, you get somewhere high, somewhere defensible. Don't try to fight the Rougarou. Don't try to run through the swamp at night. You do that, you die. Comprenez?" "We understand," Hayes said, clearly not taking it seriously. "We'll watch out for your werewolves." Claude looked at him for a long moment. "Hope you do, because if you don't, I'd be picking up bodies in 5 days. If I find them at all." The airboat roared away, leaving us in sudden silence broken only by the sounds of the swamp. Birds, insects, the occasional splash of something hitting water. Normal sounds, natural sounds. We didn't know it yet, but we were already being watched. Hayes gathered us for final briefing. "Okay, listen up, 5-day OP. We're establishing patrol routes through the basin, identifying defensive positions and testing our equipment in wetland conditions. Standard recon protocols. We move during the day, set security at night, stay hydrated, watch for snakes and gators. Any questions?" "What about the werewolves?" Rodriguez joked. "If you see a werewolf, shoot it and collect your $1 million prize for proving cryptids are real. Now gear up, we've got 10 clicks to cover before nightfall." The next 6 hours were brutal. Moving through a swamp isn't like moving through a forest. Every step is uncertain. The ground shifts, water hides holes deep enough to swallow you. Roots trip you. Mud sucks at your boots. And the heat, Jesus, the heat. Even with hydration packs, we were constantly fighting dehydration. By 1600, we'd covered maybe 4 clicks, a third of our planned distance. Hayes called a halt on another small island, this one with a cluster of cypress trees that provided some shade. "We set camp here," he decided. "Establish a perimeter, 2-man watch rotation, 4-hour shifts. Chen, get comms up. I want to report our position." But Chen was having problems. "Sarge, I'm not getting signal. The canopy's too thick. I need to boost the antenna." "Do it. Everyone else establish defensive positions. Morrison, you and Jackson take first watch. North and south approaches, stay alert." As the sun set, the swamp transformed. The sounds changed. The birds went quiet, the insects got louder, a constant buzz that made it hard to hear anything else. And the shadows deepened. Between the trees, in the water, everywhere you looked, darkness gathered like something alive. "This place is creepy as hell," Washington muttered, cleaning his rifle for the 3rd time. "It's just a swamp," I said, trying to sound confident. "We've been in worse." "Have we? When? Where?" I didn't have an answer, because the truth was, even with all our training, all our experience, the Atchafalaya felt different. Hostile, in a way Afghanistan and Iraq never had. Those places had human enemies, understandable threats. This place felt like it resented our presence, like we didn't belong and something was going to correct that mistake. 2,200, full dark. Morrison was on watch. Jackson was supposed to be on watch too, covering the southern approach. But Morrison couldn't see him. "Jackson," Morrison whispered into his radio. "You still in position?" No response. "Jackson, radio check." Still nothing. Morrison moved from his position, heading south to where Jackson should have been. He found Jackson's rifle, his pack, his boots, all arranged neatly on the ground, but no Jackson. "Sarge," Morrison called. "Jackson's gone. His gear's here, but he's not." We all snapped awake. Weapons up, scanning the darkness with night vision. But the swamp at night is a nightmare for NVGs. Too much vegetation. Too much water reflecting light. Too many shadows that could be anything. Hayes organized a search. Teams of 3. Stay within sight of each other, move slowly. Look for tracks, signs, anything. We found blood, not much, just spots on the mud. leading away from Jackson's position into the water. And then nothing, like whatever took him, just swam away. Gator, Thompson suggested. Had to be. Silent attack. Dragged him into the water. Gators don't undress their prey, Chen pointed out. Jackson's gear was removed, deliberately, placed there. That's not animal behavior. So, what are you saying? Someone else is out here? I'm saying we need to be more careful. We maintained watch through the night. All of us awake. All of us armed. All of us scanning the darkness for threats that never materialized. But we heard things. Splashes. Movement. And around 0300, a sound that made every hair on my body stand up. Howling. Multiple sources. Coming from all directions. Not like coyotes. Not like wolves. Deeper. More resonant. And layered. Like the howls had structure. Like they were communicating. What the hell is that? Rodriguez demanded. Wolves? Washington suggested. Do they have wolves in Louisiana? No, Hayes said quietly. They don't. The howling continued for maybe 5 minutes, then stopped abruptly, leaving only the insects and our own breathing. At dawn, we found Jackson, or what was left of him. He was 20 meters from camp, torn apart. I'm not going to describe what we found in detail. Some things you can't unsee. Some images burn into your memory and stay there forever. But it wasn't an alligator. It wasn't a gator. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't anything natural. The wounds were wrong. The way the body was positioned was wrong. And the tracks around it, bipedal, canine, massive, were very wrong. Jesus Christ, Morrison whispered, turning away to throw up. Hayes examined the tracks. These are... He didn't finish. Couldn't finish. Because finishing would mean acknowledging something impossible. The Rougarou, I said quietly. Claude warned us. Don't start with that cryptid bullshit, Thompson snapped. This was an animal, a bear, a big cat, something natural. Bears don't walk on 2 legs. Big cats don't leave tracks like this. And no natural animal makes howls like what we heard last night. So what? You're saying werewolves are real? That's insane. I'm saying something killed Jackson. Something that walks upright. Something that hunts at night. Something that's probably still out there watching us right now. We all looked at the tree line, at the shadows, at the water. And suddenly, every sound, every movement, every ripple could be a threat. Could be them. We call for extraction, Rodriguez said. Right now. We get out of here. Agreed, Hayes said, his earlier confidence completely gone. Chen, get on the radio. Priority evac. We've got 1 KIA and a potentially hostile contact. Chen tried, spent 30 minutes trying, but the radio was still having signal problems. The swamp was interfering. Or something was interfering with the swamp. Either way, we couldn't communicate with command. We moved to higher ground, Hayes decided. Get out of the thick swamp. Find a position where Chen can boost signal. We establish a defensive perimeter and wait for extraction. What about Jackson? Morrison asked. We all looked at the body. What was left of it? Taking it with us would slow us down, leave us vulnerable. But leaving it felt wrong, felt like abandoning him. We mark the location, Hayes said finally. Recovery team will retrieve him when they extract us. Right now, we need to focus on keeping the rest of us alive. We moved fast, faster than we should have in a swamp. But fear is a powerful motivator, and every shadow, every sound, every splash could be them. Could be more of what killed Jackson. By mid-afternoon, we'd covered maybe 3 clicks. Found a raised area. Not quite solid ground, but better than the deep swamp. Chen set up the comms again. Boosted the antenna. tried every frequency. Finally, contact. Weak. Static-filled. But contact. Read you. Break. Say again. Break. This is Recon Team 7, Chen reported. We have 1 KIA, requesting immediate extraction. Hostile contact confirmed. Repeat. Hostile contact confirmed. Copy. What nature? Hostile. Unknown. Large predator. Multiple contacts. Coordinating attacks. We need immediate... The radio died. Not just signal loss, complete electronic failure. Chen pulled the battery pack. Dead. The backup battery. Dead. Like something had drained every electrical component simultaneously. That's not natural, Chen said, his voice shaking. Equipment failure doesn't work like that. Something did this deliberately. How? Thompson demanded. How does something kill electronics? That's not... The howling started again. Daylight howling. Multiple sources, closer than last night. So close we could hear the wet sound of breathing between howls. Defensive positions, Hayes ordered. Weapons ready. Fire on any hostile contact. We formed a circle. Backs together. Rifles pointed outward. Scanning the swamp for movement. For targets. For anything we could shoot. And then we saw them, between the trees, maybe 50 meters out, shapes, too tall to be wolves, too broad to be human. Standing upright, watching us with eyes that caught the light and reflected it back yellow-green. 7 of them. At least 7. Surrounding us in a perfect perimeter. Not attacking. Just watching. Evaluating. Like they were deciding if we were worth the effort. Hold fire, Hayes whispered. Don't provoke them. Maybe they'll... One of them vocalized. Not a howl. A sound like speech. Guttural, complex. And the others responded. Call and response, communication. They're talking, I breathed. Oh God, they're talking to each other. Take the shot, Thompson urged. While they're standing still, take them down. 7 of them, Hayes calculated. 11 of us. If we engage and they rush us, we might not have enough firepower to stop them all. So what do? We back away, slowly. Don't break eye contact. Don't run. Just move toward the better defensive ground. We tried. We really tried to do it right. Move together. Stay coordinated. Maintain visibility. But the swamp doesn't allow that. The water got deeper. The trees got denser. And the creatures, the Rougarou, they followed. Not attacking, not rushing. Just following, patient. Like they knew we couldn't escape. Like they were herding us. The sun was setting, night was coming, and we were still deep in the Atchafalaya, surrounded by things that hunted at night, things that had already killed one of us, things that might kill the rest of us before dawn. We need to find defensible ground, Hayes said. Somewhere we can hold through the night. Somewhere they can't surround us. Where? Rodriguez asked. Everything is water and trees. There's nowhere to... There. Chen pointed. Through the trees, maybe 200 meters ahead, we could see a structure. Old, collapsing. Some kind of hunting cabin or fishing shack. But it had walls, a roof, windows, something defensible. Move, Hayes ordered. Fast, but controlled. We get to that structure, we fortify, and we hold until morning. We ran. And behind us, the howling started again. Not communication this time. The hunt call. The sound predators make when prey starts running. The sound that tells the pack to close in. The sound that means you're about to die. We burst through the cabin door in full tactical panic. The structure was worse than it looked from a distance. Walls rotting. Floor mostly gone. Roof collapsed in places. But it had 4 walls and 1 door we could barricade. In the swamp at night with those things hunting us, Even a collapsing shack was better than nothing. "Secure the perimeter," Hayes ordered. "Windows covered, door barricaded, overlapping fields of fire." We moved fast, pushed broken furniture against the door, covered windows with whatever we could find, old boards, pieces of tin roof, anything that would block line of sight while letting us see out. Set up firing positions covering all approaches. Through the gaps in our makeshift barricades we could see them. 7 distinct shapes, maybe more, circling the cabin, not rushing, not attacking, just circling like sharks around wounded prey, waiting for the right moment. "How long until dawn?" Morrison asked, his voice tight with fear he was trying to hide. I checked my watch. 6 hours, maybe 7. We can hold that long. We've got ammunition, defensive position. We just need to... The first impact hit the north wall. Something massive slammed into the rotting wood. The entire structure shuddered. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling, but the wall held. Barely. "Contact north," Thompson called out, firing 3 controlled bursts through a gap in the barricade. "I hit it! I know I hit it!" But whatever he hit didn't fall, didn't even slow down. We heard it moving, circling again, testing different approaches. Another impact, west wall this time, then south. They were probing our defenses, looking for weak points, and the more they tested, the more obvious it became. This cabin wouldn't last. The wood was too rotten, the structure too compromised. One sustained assault and it would collapse. "Chen, radio," Hayes ordered. "Try anything, every frequency, we need extraction." "Radio's dead, Sarge. You saw what happened, something killed it. Try anyway." Chen pulled out the radio, went through the motions. But we all knew it was hopeless. Whatever these things were, whatever the Rougarou really were, they'd somehow disabled our communication equipment. Like they understood what it was, like they knew we'd call for help if we could. "Sarge," Rodriguez called from the east window, "you need to see this." We looked. Through the gaps in the barricade, we could see one of them clearly. It had stepped into a shaft of moonlight, not approaching, just standing there, letting us see it. 7 feet tall, easily, broad shoulders, legs bent wrong for a human, digitigrade like a dog or wolf, arms too long, hands that ended in claws. And the head, Jesus, the head, wolf-like but wrong. The snout was shorter, the eyes were forward-facing like a primate's, and when it opened its mouth we saw teeth designed for tearing, for killing. "That's not an animal," Washington breathed. That's something else." It tilted its head, studying us. Then it vocalized. That same guttural speech we'd heard before, and the others responded from the darkness. Coordinating, planning. "They're intelligent," I said. "This isn't pack hunting by instinct. They're strategizing, figuring out how to get to us." "Good," Thompson said, his grip tight on his rifle. "Intelligence means they'll feel fear. Means they'll back off when we show them we're not prey. We just need to make them understand we can fight back." But I wasn't so sure. Because intelligent predators are the most dangerous kind. They adapt, they learn. And these things had been hunting in this swamp long before we arrived. We were in their territory, playing by their rules, and we were losing. The howling started again, all around us. So close, the sound vibrated through the cabin walls. Not just howls now, words, or what sounded like words. Vocalizations with structure, with meaning, and then silence. Complete, total. Even the insects stopped. The swamp went dead quiet in a way that made every combat instinct I had scream danger. "They're coming," Hayes said. "Get ready. Fire discipline. Controlled bursts. Make every shot." They hit all 4 walls simultaneously. The impacts were massive, coordinated. The north wall cracked, the west wall splintered, the south window barricade exploded inward, and through the gaps we saw them. Claws, teeth, eyes that glowed in the muzzle flash as we opened fire. The sound was deafening. 11 rifles firing in an enclosed space, the smell of gunpowder overwhelming the rot and swamp water, brass casings bouncing on the broken floor, and screaming, our screaming, their screaming. A sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Rage and pain and hunger all mixed together. "I hit one! I hit one!" Rodriguez was shouting. "It's down! It's—" The east wall collapsed, just exploded inward like it was made of paper. And one of them was through. Inside the cabin. Inside our defensive perimeter. 7 feet of muscle and fur and teeth, moving faster than anything that size should move. It grabbed Sanchez, just grabbed him like he weighed nothing. Sanchez fired. Point-blank range. Emptied his magazine into its chest. But it didn't let go. Didn't even flinch. It dragged him toward the collapsed wall, toward the darkness outside. "No!" Hayes fired. Williams fired. Morrison fired. All of us pouring rounds into the thing, and it finally went down. Fell across the broken wall. Bleeding. Not dead. I could see it still breathing, but down. But Sanchez was gone, dragged into the swamp. And his screaming. God, his screaming lasted maybe 10 seconds. Then stopped abruptly, with a wet sound that I knew meant he was dead. That meant 2 Marines down, 2 Marines we couldn't save. "Fall back," Hayes ordered. "Second floor. If this place has a second floor." We found stairs, barely. More of a ladder than actual stairs. Led to a loft area that was mostly intact. A smaller space, easier to defend. We climbed fast, pulling up anything we could use as weapons, firing at movement below, at shapes in the darkness, at anything that wasn't human. From the loft we had a better view, could see the cabin below, could see them circling, at least 5 of them, maybe 6, moving through the ruins of our defensive position, sniffing, searching, looking for us. "Head count," Hayes demanded. "Sound off. Mitchell, Rodriguez, Thompson, Williams, Morrison, Washington, Chen." 8 voices. We'd lost 4. Jackson before nightfall. Sanchez during the assault. And, "Where's Carter?" Hayes asked. "Where's Carter?" We'd left him downstairs, in the chaos, in the panic. We'd left him behind when we retreated to the loft. And now, through the broken floor, we could see them finding him. Could hear his screaming as they tore into him. Could hear it stop. 3 down, Hayes said, his voice hollow. 3 Marines down in one night. "We need to get out of here," Washington said. "We can't hold this position. Can't wait for dawn. We need to move, now." "Move where? Through a swamp at night with those things hunting us? That's suicide. Staying here is suicide. That first floor won't hold them. This loft won't hold them. We're trapped. We're dead if we stay. We're dead if we run." "So what do we do?" Morrison demanded. "What's the plan, Sarge?" Hayes looked at us. At 8 Marines who'd trusted him to get them through this. At 8 men who might not see dawn because he'd led them into a nightmare. And I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Doubt. Fear. The realization that training didn't matter. Experience didn't matter. We were outmatched, outmaneuvered, and running out of time. "We hold until dawn," he decided. "We conserve ammunition. We stay together, and we pray that morning makes them retreat. And if it doesn't," he didn't answer. Because there was no answer. If dawn didn't make them leave, we were dead, all of us. The night crawled forward. Minutes felt like hours. We took turns on watch. 2 awake, 6 trying to rest. But nobody really slept. How could you? With those things below, with the sounds of them moving, with the knowledge that at any moment they might figure out how to reach the loft. Around 0300 they tried. We heard scrambling, claws on wood. Something was climbing, coming up the outside wall, trying to reach the loft entrance. "Contact!" Rodriguez fired down through a gap in the floor. "They're climbing!" We all opened fire. Blind fire. Shooting at sounds, at movement, at anything. The wood splintered. Something fell. We heard impact, heard thrashing, but we also heard more climbing, more scrambling. They were learning, adapting, trying new approaches. "Grenades!" Hayes pulled one from his vest. "Get clear of the edges." He pulled the pin, cooked it for 2 seconds, dropped it through the floor. We pressed against the center support beam. The explosion was massive in the enclosed space. The entire structure shook. Something below screamed. Then silence. "Report!" Hayes called. We checked ourselves. Nobody hit by shrapnel, nobody injured by the blast. But the floor was more compromised now. Whole sections were missing. We could see straight down into the cabin, could see 2 of them lying still, dead or wounded. The others had pulled back, were circling at a distance, reassessing. "We hurt them," Thompson said. "That worked. We can fight them." "We have 3 grenades left," Hayes said. "After that, it's just rifles, and we've already gone through 1/3 of our ammunition. We need to be smarter, need to make every shot count." "Or we need to stop shooting," I said. Everyone looked at me. "Think about it. They're testing us, learning what we can do. Every time we fire, we teach them, show them our capabilities, our limitations. What if we went quiet? Let them think we're out of ammunition. Let them commit to an assault, then hit them when they're exposed." Hayes considered it. "That's risky. If they rush all at once, we might not stop them." "We're not stopping them now. We're just delaying. At least this way we surprise them, maybe kill enough that the survivors retreat. Or we all die when they overrun us. We're already dying, one by one. At least this way we go down fighting, take as many of them as we can." It was a terrible plan, a desperation plan, but Hayes knew it was the only plan that had any chance of working. "Okay, we go silent. No shooting unless they breach the loft. Save ammunition for close combat. And when they come, because they will come, we light them up. Everything we have, no mercy, no hesitation. We kill every single one we can reach." We waited, in silence, in darkness, listening to them circle, listening to them vocalize, listening to them coordinate whatever came next. And they did come. Around 0430, just before dawn, all of them, simultaneously, climbing, scrambling, tearing at the walls, the floor, the roof, coming from every direction at once. A final, coordinated assault to finish us. "Now!" Hayes roared. We opened fire, point-blank range, full automatic, grenades, everything. The loft became a hell of muzzle flash and screaming and the smell of gunpowder and blood. I emptied my magazine into a shape coming through the floor. Reloaded. Fired again. Saw it fall. Saw another behind it. Kept firing. Rodriguez took one down with his knife. Williams was crushed when a section of floor collapsed. Morrison was dragged halfway through a wall before Chen pulled him back. Thompson emptied his rifle, then his sidearm, then started using his rifle as a club. And then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. They pulled back, retreated into the swamp, leaving bodies, leaving us bleeding and shaking and barely alive, but leaving us alive nonetheless. "Sound off," Hayes ordered, his voice hoarse. "Who's still with us?" "Mitchell." "Rodriguez." "Thompson." Morrison. 5 voices. We'd lost Williams. Washington, Chen. 8 Marines started the mission. 5 remained. And dawn was just breaking. The swamp was lightening. And those things, the Rougarou, were retreating into the deeper water, into the shadows, unable or unwilling to hunt in daylight. We'd survived the night, barely, but we were still trapped, still deep in the Atchafalaya, still surrounded by things that would hunt us again the moment night fell, and we had no communication, no extraction, no hope of rescue unless we could reach civilization on our own. We move, Hayes decided. Now, while they're inactive, we head for the extraction point. Move fast, don't stop, don't look back. We get out of this swamp before nightfall or we die here. We climbed down from the loft, stepped over bodies, human and otherwise. Tried not to look at the Marines we'd lost, tried not to think about what their families would be told, how their deaths would be explained. The swamp seemed different in daylight, less threatening, almost peaceful. But we knew better now, knew what lived here, knew what hunted here, and knew that the moment the sun set, we'd be prey again. We had maybe 12 hours to cover 10 kilometers of swamp, 12 hours to reach the extraction point, 12 hours to survive. And behind us, in the shadows where the sun didn't reach, we could hear them, howling, calling to each other, telling the pack that prey was running, that the hunt would resume soon, that 5 Marines were about to learn what happens when you trespass in the Rougarou's domain. Moving through the Atchafalaya in daylight should have felt safer, should have given us confidence, but knowing what was behind us, what was tracking us, made every step feel like walking toward our own graves. We moved in a tight formation, Hayes on point, Rodriguez and Thompson flanking, Morrison and me on rear security. Every few hundred meters, we'd stop, listen, check our 6, look for signs we were being followed. We found those signs everywhere, tracks in the mud, fresh, bipedal, massive, parallel to our route but keeping distance, like they were hurting us, like they knew where we were going and were letting us go there. They're tracking us, Morrison said, his voice tight. Following us. I know, Hayes replied. But they're staying back. Daylight makes them cautious. We use that. Move fast. Cover as much ground as possible before sunset. And when the sun goes down? Hayes didn't answer, because we all knew the answer. When the sun went down, they'd come for us. And this time, there'd be no cabin, no defensive position, just open swamp and 5 exhausted Marines with dwindling ammunition. By 1000, we'd covered maybe 3 clicks, a third of the distance to extraction. But the terrain was getting worse. Deeper water, thicker vegetation. We were moving slower, making noise, leaving obvious trails. We need to rest, Thompson said. Just 10 minutes. We can't stop, Hayes insisted. Every minute we waste is a minute closer to nightfall. Sarge, we're exhausted. We've been up for over 24 hours. We're dehydrated. Some of us are wounded. We push too hard, we'll make mistakes. Fatal mistakes. Hayes looked at us. Saw the truth. We were at our limit. Combat effective, maybe, but deteriorating fast. And if we collapsed from exhaustion, we'd be easy prey. Fine, 10 minutes, on that high ground. He pointed to a raised area, not quite an island, more of a ridge that stayed above water. Drink, eat, check weapons, then we move. We reached the high ground, collapsed, pulled out water, MRES, tried to force food down throats that didn't want it, tried to rest muscles that were screaming. That's when Rodriguez saw it. Movement, 3 o'clock, in the tree line. We all turned, rifles up, scanning, and there it was, one of them, standing in the shadows, Not hiding, just standing there, watching us, making sure we knew it was there. "Taking the shot," Thompson said, sighting in. "Hold," Hayes ordered. "Save ammunition." "Sarge, it's right there. Clear shot. We can drop it." And then what? We announce our position to the rest of the pack. They know where we are. They're tracking us. Shooting one doesn't change that. It just wastes a bullet we might need later. The creature, the Rougarou, tilted its head. Like it understood what we were saying. Like it knew we were arguing about killing it. And then it did something that froze my blood. It raised one clawed hand, made a gesture, deliberate, unmistakable. It was waving, mocking us. "Screw this," Thompson sighted in and fired. Single shot, center mass. The creature jerked, stumbled, then straightened, looked down at where the bullet hit, looked back at us, and vocalized that same guttural speech. But this time it sounded like laughter. Then it turned and disappeared into the swamp. "You just pissed it off," Morrison said. "Good. Let it be pissed. Let them all be pissed. They bleed, which means they die. We just need to shoot them enough." "We don't have enough ammunition to shoot them enough. You just wasted a round proving they can take hits. Congratulations." "Both of you shut up." Hayes snapped. "What's done is done. We move, now, before they decide to test us in daylight." We moved. Faster now. Fear driving us forward. But the swamp was fighting us. Every step was a battle. Water up to our thighs. Mud sucking at our boots. Roots hidden underwater that tripped us. Snakes we had to avoid. Alligators we had to detour around. And always the sense that we were being watched. That they were out there, invisible, patient, waiting for the right moment. 1300. Halfway to extraction. But we were slowing down. Hayes was limping, twisted ankle from a hidden root. Morrison was favoring his left side, bruised ribs from the cabin assault. Thompson was shaking. Adrenaline crash or shock or both. Rodriguez and I were holding together, but barely. "We're not going to make it," Morrison said what we were all thinking. "Not at this pace. Not before dark." "We will," Hayes insisted. "We have to." "Sarge, be realistic. It's 1300 now. Sunset is around 1900. 6 hours. We've covered 5 clicks in 7 hours. We have 5 more to go. The math doesn't work. Then we move faster. We can't move faster. Look at us. We're done. Then we find another way. High ground. Defensible position. Somewhere we can hold through another night. There is no high ground. It's all swamp, and we can't survive another night. We barely survived last night in a fortified position. Out here, in the open, they'll pick us off one by one. Hayes grabbed Morrison by his vest. "Then what do you suggest? That we quit? That we just lay down and die?" "I'm suggesting we accept reality. We're not all getting out, maybe some of us, maybe one, but not all 5. So we need to decide, do we all die together, or do some of us buy time for the others to reach extraction?" The silence that followed was terrible, because Morrison was right. The math was clear. 5 of us couldn't reach extraction before nightfall, but maybe some of us could. If the others stayed behind, if the others created a diversion, if the others sacrificed themselves. "No," Hayes said. "We're Marines. We don't leave people behind. We all get out, or none of us do." "That's a nice sentiment, Sarge, but it's going to get us all killed." Before Hayes could respond, Rodriguez called out, "Contact! Multiple contacts, all directions." They'd been circling us while we argued, closing in, and now they were visible. At least 6 of them, maybe more, standing in the water, on the banks, in the trees. surrounding us in a perfect perimeter, not attacking yet, just there, making us understand that we were trapped, that running was pointless. "Defensive circle," Hayes ordered. Back to back. Overlapping fields of fire, fire on my command only. We formed up, 5 Marines against at least 6 Rougarou, maybe more hidden in the swamp. The odds were bad, getting worse by the second. One of them stepped forward, larger than the others, alpha male, probably. It vocalized, that same structured speech, and the others responded, coordinating, planning, getting ready to attack. "This is it," Thompson said. "They're coming." "We make them pay," Hayes said. "Everyone we drop is one less hunting the next group of Marines who come through here. We don't die for nothing. We die buying information, proof, evidence that something's in this swamp, something the Corps needs to know about." It was a good speech. Would have been inspiring if we weren't about to die. But before the Rougarou could charge, something unexpected happened. A sound cut through the swamp, mechanical, rhythmic, growing louder. Helicopter rotors. "That's a bird!" Rodriguez shouted. "That's an extraction bird." "How?" Morrison demanded. Jen's radio was dead. How did they know where to? "Doesn't matter." Hayes was already pulling out a signal flare. "Pop smoke, mark our position." I fired a flare straight up. Red smoke. Military distress signal. The helicopter banked toward us. Blackhawk. Coming in fast and low. And the Rougarou. They scattered. Broke formation. Retreated into the deeper swamp. The noise, the downwash, something about the helicopter made them pull back. The bird couldn't land. Too much water, too many trees. But it hovered. Lowered rope lines, combat extraction. We'd done this 100 times in training, but never exhausted, never wounded, never with predators waiting for us to mess up. "Go! Go! Go!" Hayes pushed Rodriguez toward the first line. Rodriguez grabbed it, hooked in, gave the signal. The crew pulled him up. Fast extraction. 30 seconds and he was in. Thompson went next, then Morrison, then me. I grabbed the line, hooked my harness, gave the thumbs up, started rising. And as I rose, I looked down at Hayes. He was alone now, standing in chest-deep water. Rifle ready, covering our extraction, making sure we got out. "Sarge," I shouted, "hook in, come up." He reached for the last line. And that's when they came. Fast, silent. 3 of them. Converging on Hayes from different directions. He saw them. Fired, dropped one. But the others were too fast, too close. One of them grabbed him, pulled him under. The water exploded with thrashing, with blood. Hayes surfaced once, gasping, trying to reach the line, but they pulled him down again, and this time he didn't come back up. "No!" I was screaming. "Go back! We have to—" "Negative!" The crew chief's voice in my headset. "We're taking fire, pulling out. There's still a man down there. He's gone. They've got him. We stay. We all die." The helicopter banked hard, gained altitude. And I watched Sergeant Marcus Hayes, my team leader, my friend, the man who'd kept us alive through hell, disappear into the swamp, taken by things that shouldn't exist, killed by legends that turned out to be real. 4 of us made it into the helicopter. Rodriguez, Thompson, Morrison, me. 4 out of 12. 8 Marines dead in a 24-hour period. The worst casualty rate I'd ever seen. The worst loss any of us had experienced. "What happened down there?" the crew chief demanded. "Your distress beacon activated 6 hours ago. We've been searching. What the hell happened?" "Rougarou," I said. "The Rougarou happened." "What?" "The Rougarou. The things the Cajuns warned us about. They're real. They're in that swamp, and they just killed 8 United States Marines. The crew chief looked at me like I was insane, looked at the others. They nodded, confirming my story, confirming the impossible. "We need to report this," the crew chief said. "Command needs to know. They need to send—" "They won't," Rodriguez said quietly. "They won't believe us. They'll say we had a training accident, that we panicked, that swamp conditions caused casualties. They'll never admit what's really down there. But we have proof. We have bodies. We have nothing. No photos, no video, no bodies recovered. Just 4 traumatized Marines talking about werewolves in Louisiana. You think Command will believe that?" The crew chief didn't answer, because Rodriguez was right, and we all knew it. What happened in the Atchafalaya would be covered up, classified, explained away. 8 Marines would have died for nothing, and the Rougarou would still be there, waiting for the next group of humans who didn't believe the warnings, who didn't respect the legends, who thought they could survive the swamp. We flew north, away from the basin, away from the swamp, away from the things that had hunted us. But I kept looking back, kept watching the endless green below, kept thinking about Hayes, about Jackson, about all the Marines we'd lost. And I kept thinking about how the Cajuns had tried to warn us, how Claude Thibodeau had told us about the Rougarou, how he'd given us the rules, how we'd laughed at him. We weren't laughing now. Now we knew. Now we understood. The legends were real. The stories were true. And the Atchafalaya Basin belonged to something older than us, something stronger, something that didn't want humans in its territory, something that would kill anyone who trespassed, anyone who ignored the warnings, anyone who thought they were apex predators in a swamp that already had apex predators. 4 of us survived. 4 out of 12. And we'd spend the rest of our lives knowing that 8 of our brothers died because we didn't listen, because we didn't believe, because we thought Marine training was enough. It wasn't. It would never be enough. Not against something like that. Not against the Rougarou. The swamp fell away behind us. But in my mind I could still hear them. Howling, calling, marking territory, warning others to stay away. And I knew I'd hear those howls for the rest of my life. Hear them in my nightmares, hear them every time I closed my eyes. Hear them reminding me that some places aren't meant for humans. Some territories aren't for trespassing. Some legends exist for a reason. And the Rougarou of the Atchafalaya Basin would be waiting. Patient, hungry, ready for the next group of humans who didn't believe, who didn't listen, who thought they could survive. They couldn't. We barely did. And the next group probably won't either, because the swamp always wins. And the Rougarou never forget. The debriefing started 30 minutes after we landed at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, New Orleans. 4 traumatized Marines. 8 missing. And a story that nobody wanted to believe. "Let me get this straight," the intelligence officer said, his voice carefully neutral. "You're claiming your team was attacked by werewolves." "Rougarou," I corrected. "That's what the locals call them. Bipedal canines, 7 feet tall, coordinated pack hunters. Intelligent. They killed 8 Marines in less than 24 hours. Marines who you can't produce, whose bodies weren't recovered, for whom you have no physical evidence. The bodies are still in the swamp. We can send a recovery team. To recover what? Based on your testimony of supernatural creatures? Do you understand how that sounds, Corporal?" "I understand. It sounds insane. But it's what happened. Ask Rodriguez. Ask Thompson. Ask Morrison. We all saw the same thing." The intelligence officer looked at the others. They nodded, confirmed everything I'd said, and I watched his expression shift from skepticism to concern. Not concern that we were telling the truth, concerned that 4 Marines were experiencing shared psychosis, mass hallucination, combat stress reaction affecting the entire team. "Gentlemen," he said carefully, "you've been through a traumatic experience, extreme stress, sleep deprivation, possibly contaminated water causing shared hallucinations. The mind can create very convincing scenarios when under severe duress. What you think you saw, we know what we saw," Rodriguez interrupted. "This isn't hallucination. This isn't stress. We were hunted by something that shouldn't exist but does, and 8 Marines are dead because nobody warned us properly. Because nobody took the threat seriously. The threat of werewolves. The threat of Rougarou. Yes." The intelligence officer closed his folder. "Here's what's going to happen. You 4 are being placed on medical leave. Psychological evaluation. Treatment for PTSD. The official report will state that your team encountered unexpected environmental hazards during swamp training. That's standard protocol for wilderness casualties. Accidental deaths. No negligence. No supernatural elements." "You're covering it up," Morrison said. "I'm following protocol. 8 Marines are missing, presumed dead. We'll send recovery teams when conditions permit, but we're not sending them to hunt cryptids. We're sending them to recover remains from a training accident. And when those recovery teams get attacked, when more Marines die, that won't happen, because we're designating the Atchafalaya Basin as off-limits for military training, environmental concerns, endangered species habitat. Pick your justification. Point is, no more Marines will be training in that swamp." "Because you know we're right," I said. "You know something's out there. You're just not willing to admit it." The intelligence officer leaned forward. "Corporal, do you want to know what happens if I write a report saying werewolves killed 8 Marines? I get laughed out of the military. You 4 get institutionalized, your testimony gets buried, and nothing changes. Or I write a report about a training accident. You 4 get treatment, honor the memories of your fallen brothers, and we make sure nobody else gets sent into that swamp. Which option actually helps?" He was right, and we all knew it. The truth wouldn't save anyone, wouldn't bring back the Marines we'd lost, wouldn't change what happened. It would just destroy our credibility and bury the real story even deeper. "Training accident," I said quietly. "That's the official story. That's the official story. You were conducting swamp warfare training. Multiple environmental hazards, alligators, snakes, difficult terrain, resulted in 8 casualties. Tragic. Preventable, but understandable given the extreme conditions. And the truth gets classified, sealed, forgotten, like everything else the military encounters that doesn't fit the approved narrative." We were released 2 days later. Medical leave, required psychiatric evaluation, PTSD treatment. All the standard procedures for Marines who'd experienced trauma. Except our trauma involved things that officially didn't exist, that we were supposed to forget, that we'd carry with us forever. I spent 6 months in therapy, talking to doctors who thought I was experiencing delusions, who attributed everything to combat stress, who gave me medications to help with the nightmares and reduce anxiety. They meant well, but they couldn't help, because the nightmares weren't delusions. The anxiety was justified, and no medication would erase what I'd seen. Rodriguez was medically retired. Morrison was reassigned to a desk job. Thompson left the military entirely, couldn't handle being in combat units anymore. And I stayed in, finished my contract, took an honorable discharge, and went back to Louisiana. Not to the Atchafalaya, I'm not suicidal, but to the towns around it, to the Cajun communities who'd lived with the Rougarou for generations. who knew the truth, who'd been trying to warn people like us for years. I found Claude Thibodeau 6 months after the incident. He was at a fishing dock in Pierre Part, older, still weathered, still with those eyes that had seen things he wished he hadn't. "You one of them Marines," he said when I approached. Wasn't a question, a statement. 4 came back, 8 didn't. You the one Claude warned. "Yes, sir, I'm Corporal Mitchell. I needed to thank you. You tried to warn us. We didn't listen. Nobody ever listen. White people come, full of confidence, full of guns. Think they can handle the swamp. Think they bigger than the Rougarou. Then they learn. Usually too late. Why didn't you tell us more? Explain what they really were." "I did tell you. I said they real. I said they hunt at night. I said don't run in the swamp. I gave you the rules. You the one didn't listen." He was right. We'd had the information, the warnings. We just dismissed them as superstition, as folklore, as primitive people being afraid of normal predators. "How long have they been there?" I asked. "The Rougarou. How long have they lived in the basin?" "Long as anyone remember. Long before white men come. Probably long before native peoples. The swamp is old, older than history, and the Rougarou, they part of the swamp, part of Louisiana. They don't leave, they don't change, they just are." "Are they? What are they? Supernatural? Biological? Some kind of unknown species?" Claude shrugged. "Does it matter? They exist, they hunt. They protect the deep swamp. You respect that. You live. You don't respect, you die. Simple as that. The military won't go back there. They classified it as off-limits. Good. Maybe some people learn. Maybe not Marines who die made that lesson stick. Maybe your brothers didn't die for nothing." I hoped he was right. Hoped that 8 Marines dying would prevent future casualties. But I also knew how the military worked. How time erodes caution. How new commanders who didn't believe the stories would eventually authorize new training exercises. How the Atchafalaya would eventually see more Marines, more victims, more casualties. "Tell me about the curse," I said. "The Rougarou curse. The stories say people become Rougarou under certain conditions. Is that real?" "Some people say yes. Some say no. I think maybe both true. Maybe Rougarou are what they always been, creatures of the swamp. But maybe also, sometimes, people who go too deep, who see too much, who break rules. Maybe the swamp take them, make them part of it. I don't know for sure. Nobody know for sure. That's how the swamp work. Never give full truth. Always keep secrets." Over the next 2 years, I researched everything I could about the Rougarou, the legends, the history, the sightings, and I found patterns, consistency, stories from Cajun families going back generations. Always describing the same things, same behaviors, same warnings. The Rougarou weren't random, weren't just aggressive animals. They were territorial, protective of the deep swamp, attacking only when humans trespassed too far. When humans ignored warnings, when humans showed disrespect for the bayou, and the Cajun community had figured out how to coexist. Don't go deep at night. Don't camp near Rougarou territory. Don't hunt in certain areas. Follow the rules, and the Rougarou left you alone. Break the rules, and you became prey. Simple, effective, working for centuries. But only if you believed. Only if you listened. Only if you respected knowledge that came from experience rather than science. I contacted the Marine Corps Historical Division, offered to write a report, an unofficial account of what happened in the Atchafalaya, so that future Marines would know, would be warned, would understand the real dangers. They declined, politely but firmly. The official record is sufficient, Corporal. Additional documentation isn't necessary and might confuse the historical record. Translation: we don't want your werewolf story in our files. It makes the Corps look bad. Makes us look unprepared. Better to stick with the training accident narrative and move on. But I wrote the report anyway. Detailed, complete. Everything we saw, everything we experienced, everything that killed 8 Marines. And I distributed it. Online. To cryptozoology researchers. To paranormal investigators. To anyone who might take it seriously. Most dismissed it. Called it creative writing. Said I was seeking attention. But some believed. Some understood. And slowly the story spread, not as official Marine Corps history, but as warning, as lesson, as proof that some legends exist for reasons. Rodriguez died 3 years after the incident. Suicide. The official report said PTSD. But I know better. He couldn't live with the memories, couldn't handle the nightmares, couldn't reconcile what he'd seen with what the world said was possible. So he ended it. Another casualty of the Atchafalaya. Just delayed. Thompson disappeared. Left no forwarding address, cut contact with everyone from the unit. I heard rumors he'd moved to Alaska. Gotten as far from Louisiana as possible. Trying to forget. Trying to build a life where swamps didn't exist and Rougarou were just stories. Morrison reached out to me last year. Asked if I'd come to Louisiana, said he needed to talk, needed someone who understood. We met in Baton Rouge, away from the basin, away from the swamp. I keep thinking about going back, he admitted. Going into the Atchafalaya, finding proof, documenting them, making people believe. Don't, I said. You go back in there, you don't come out. They let us go once. They won't let us go twice. But people need to know. People need to understand what's in that swamp. People who need to know. The Cajuns know. The locals know. The military knows, even if they won't admit it. Everyone else? Let them stay ignorant. Ignorance keeps them out of the swamp. Keeps them alive. Is that what we do? Just accept that 8 Marines died and nobody cares? Just let their deaths mean nothing? Their deaths mean something. They mean the Atchafalaya is off limits now. They mean future Marines won't train there. They mean some lessons cost lives, but the lessons stick. That's not nothing. Morrison wasn't satisfied. I could see it in his eyes. He wanted justice, wanted acknowledgement, wanted the world to know what killed our brothers. But the world doesn't work that way. The world dismisses what it doesn't understand, buries what it can't explain, and moves on. I still live in Louisiana, not near the basin, but close enough to monitor, close enough to hear stories, close enough to know when someone goes missing in the swamp, when tourists disappear, when hunters don't come back. It happens. Regularly. More than official statistics admit. The Atchafalaya takes people. The Rougarou hunt, and the cycle continues. Has continued for generations. Will continue for generations more. Because some places belong to things older than us. Some territories are claimed by creatures we can't control. And some legends are warnings disguised as stories. The Cajuns understood that. Claude Thibodeau understood that. 8 Marines learned it too late. I give talks sometimes, at veteran groups, at military conferences, unofficial, off record. I tell the story, the real story, not the training accident version. And some people believe, some people understand, some people take the warning seriously, but most don't. Most think I'm exaggerating, telling tall tales, seeking attention. They hear werewolves in Louisiana, and they tune out. Just like we did when Claude warned us. Just like every group does until they encounter the truth themselves. And that's fine. I'm not trying to convince everyone. I'm trying to reach the people who need to hear it. The people who might train in swamps. The people who might ignore local warnings. The people who might dismiss indigenous knowledge because it doesn't come from textbooks. Those people need to understand. The Rougarou are real. The Atchafalaya Basin is their territory. And if you go there, especially at night, especially deep into the swamp, you're not the apex predator. You're prey. We were 12 Marines, trained, armed, experienced, and 8 of us died in less than 24 hours. Not because we were incompetent, not because we made tactical errors, but because we underestimated what we were facing, because we dismissed warnings as superstition, because we thought modern weapons and military training were enough. They weren't. They never will be. Not against something that's lived in those swamps for centuries, something that knows every inch of that terrain, something that hunts in coordinated packs with near-human intelligence, something that the Cajun community has learned to respect and avoid. I carry 8 names with me: Jackson, Sanchez, Carter, Williams, Washington, Chen, Hayes. Rodriguez died later, but the swamp killed him just as sure as the others. 8 Marines who trusted their training, who trusted their equipment, who trusted that warnings about Rougarou were just folklore. They were wrong. We were all wrong. And they paid the price. The Atchafalaya Basin is still there. The Rougarou are still there, hunting, protecting their territory, waiting for the next group of humans who don't believe, who don't respect the warnings, who think they can survive where 8 Marines couldn't. Maybe you'll believe this story. Maybe you'll dismiss it like we dismissed Claude. But if you ever find yourself near the Atchafalaya Basin at night, if you ever hear howling that sounds almost human, if you ever see movement in the shadows that walks on 2 legs, remember what happened to us. Remember that some legends are real. Some warnings are literal. And some places in this world still belong to things that aren't human, things that don't care about your training, your weapons, your confidence, things that will kill you for trespassing. Just like they killed us. The Rougarou don't ask questions, don't give second chances. They hunt, they kill, they protect their swamp, and they've been doing it long before we were born and will keep doing it long after we die. 12 Marines went into the Atchafalaya Basin in August 2019. 4 came out. The rest stayed forever. Don't be the next one.